lots of low-cost, high-intent monthly searches is an absolute goldmine. Industries that have these are pretty rare, but they still exist. We actually nerd out and get really excited when we see a cost per click under £1 these days.
This is the B2B Performance Marketing Podcast by Webmarketer, here to help you make the right moves with your B2B advertising. No spin, no smoke and mirrors, just honest insights from the advertising front line.
Welcome back to the B2B Performance Marketing Podcast. If you're new here, this is where we help small and under-resourced B2B marketing teams get better results from their ads with honest insights and advice. I'm Mylian Holton.
And I'm Louis Holton-Davis. So this is part 2B. If you joined us for part 2A, you'll know that we're walking through the exact process we use to build winning ad strategies here at Webmarketer. In today's episode, part 2B, we're going to be focusing on these three main areas. So first up, we've got audiences and targeting. Then we've got measurement. And finally, we've got how to package up your strategy to create a really useful doc. So let's get into it.
In episode 9, our introduction to B2B ad strategy, we ran through this rule of thumb. If there's existing demand, go for search. If there's no demand, go for social. If you've got more time than money, then go for organic. But if you've got more money than time, go for paid. We'll always go for search ads first if we can, because if people are searching in volume here, then this is the highest intent traffic that you can get. We often say that you can't search for something if you're not already actively looking for it. And to that point, lots of low-cost, high-intent monthly searches is an absolute goldmine. Industries that have these are pretty rare, but they still exist. We actually nerd out and get really excited when we see a cost per click under £1 these days. So our recommendation, if you can start with Google search ads, then start here. And avoid just spinning up a Performance Max campaign. The difference in lead quality between Performance Max and Google search can be absolutely huge. Hold off on it until you've scaled your search ads to the point where they're at or nearly at your cost per lead target. And as a side note, that's why it's really important to work towards a target cost per lead rather than just going for the lowest cost per lead possible. If you go for the lowest cost per lead possible, you actually end up putting yourself in scaling jail. Because when you need more leads and you have to increase your budget, your cost per lead here is naturally going to increase since you're going to be going against the bigger fish in your industry here.
That's such a good point. And it's exactly why we covered how to work out your target cost per lead in the last episode. So you've got the list of keywords that your competitors are targeting. And if you completed the breakthrough blueprint that we linked in episode 10, you'll also have a list of services that you offer and also challenges and sales objections that your customers are facing. Take all of those along with the converting keywords in your ad account and put them into the Google Keyword Planner to start generating ideas. Take all of the unique keyword ideas and start saving them into a spreadsheet, along with the expected monthly searches and cost per click. It's really, really important with keyword research that you think outside the box. A really quick and stupidly simple win is to go one step deeper than your competition. You'll find that most competitors in your industries are bidding for the obvious keywords, the head terms, like industry plus service. But an easy win can be to focus on the questions or the challenges that you gathered in the blueprint. So as an example, we had a client who was an Oracle Primavera consultant, which is a type of project management software. And instead of bidding for terms like project management software consultant or Oracle Primavera consultant, they actually took the error messages from the system where people would typically need help, and they bidded on those as keywords. Now, the smart thing about these error messages as keywords was that they were very high intent, they had decent search volume, and they had next to no competition. So the cost per click was really low. So rather than thinking about the obvious keywords, really take the time to go deeper and think about all of the different ways that your potential customers could be looking for help.
So now you've got a big old spreadsheet with a list of keywords with the CPCs and monthly searches. The next job here is to remove any keywords from the list that have 100 searches or less per month. If the list is a bit short, you can go lower. Next, you want to group the keywords by intent, so whether they're informational keywords or whether they're more commercial keywords. If you're not sure here, a great trick that's often overlooked is to take that keyword, copy it into Google search, and then see what type of content is being linked to here. Are the results more informational based, so blogs and articles, or are they more commercial based, so full of businesses and services? Once you've done that, you've got a nice categorized list of all the keywords that you could target.
The next step is audience research, which is a bit more straightforward, but it still needs the same level of consideration. You'll want to go into the ad platform that you're using, so Google Ads, Meta Ads, or LinkedIn Ads, and then you're going to want to go through the motion of setting up a new campaign. You can fill in dummy information. We're not actually going to set this live, but when you get to the point where you're adding audiences in, have a really thorough look through all of the audiences that are available to you and their audience sizes. In Google Ads, you're going to want to try a number of different searches. The audience search is actually pretty intuitive, and it'll recommend a number of different related audiences to what you've searched for. Ideally, you're going to want to end up with a good mix of affinity audiences, which are people interested in XYZ, and also in-market audiences, which are people looking to buy XYZ. Then in Meta, add a few relevant audiences and then switch over to the Suggestions tab. This will show you a list of audiences that are relevant to the ones that you've already added. I find this the most effective way of building up a really comprehensive list, and you're going to want to switch back and forth between the two tabs until you're happy with the list that you've got. And then finally in LinkedIn, go category by category and just type in as many searches as you can think of. Document all audiences by channel, and then go through and remove them before adding them back one by one so that you can add the audience size to each one. Here at Webmarketer, with the exception of LinkedIn, we like to go for audiences that are as big as possible. We don't usually like to combine audiences because the size can get too small, especially when you're targeting the UK. And also you can hike up the cost to reach each person because the CPMs increase by doing that too. So as I mentioned, that doesn't really apply to LinkedIn, where we actually like to go for audiences with 50,000 members or less, just because you get more bang for buck doing it that way. Another benefit of having one audience per ad set or ad group or campaign is that you get to do testing. So we like to test each audience in its own ad set or ad group or campaign and let that work with the platform's algorithm. It will reach the best quality audience members and also give us some really good insight for optimization.
So before moving on to packaging up the strategy, let's talk about measurement. It's really important to get your measurement right because Louis just mentioned great tracking makes sure that A, the advertising platform gets you more of the right results, and B, you can see what's working and which ads and targeting are driving performance. You want to make sure that whatever your key objectives is for your ads, that's what's being measured with no distractions. For example, every time someone sees a contact form is not a conversion. Every time someone clicks on a telephone number or an email link is not a conversion. Every unique visitor is not a conversion. Every time someone stays for more than a minute is not a conversion. The reason I say each of these is because we've seen all of these used before. While they can provide interesting insights, you want your conversions to only contain valuable interactions. So I don't want to count how many people saw the form as a conversion. I want to see how many people actually submitted it. I don't want to know how many people clicked the telephone number. I want to know how many people phoned through and stayed on the phone for more than a minute. You get the picture. For every conversion that I set up in my ads, I also want to see these in Google Analytics. And if I set it up in Google Tag Manager, I want to make sure that the trigger here is the same for ads and analytics, so that there's no discrepancies. With all of this in mind, it's really important to audit your current tracking. Conversion tracking is a thing that we see businesses get wrong most often, and it's what causes the most problems if it's not set up right. So it's really important to get it how you need it.
So finally, let's talk about how to package up your strategy so that it can act as a central document where literally everyone is reading from the same page. First off, create a blank presentation. You want it to be nice and visual and easy to read. In section 1, you'll want to list all of the key findings from your breakthrough blueprint. The idea is to build a profile of the business and its services and to provide a really clear context for what's coming later in the doc. Section 2 will be all about the competitors, and I'd recommend starting with a table that lists out the competitors along with their expected monthly spend. Now, this is just a personal preference, but next to each competitor, I like to add a link to where their ads are on the Google Ads Transparency Center, the Meta Ad Library, and the LinkedIn Ads Library. That way, anyone who's reading it can click through and see all of their ads, or also you've got a quick link that you can go and get a refresh at a later date. Next, you're going to want to create a slide for each of their budgets, keywords, ads, and landing pages, with observations and recommendations after each one. Section 3 is for the strategy itself, so have a really good look through all of your research to date, along with the observations and recommendations that you've made. Are there things that other competitors are saying that are industry standard and you should do too? Are there gaps or opportunities that nobody else is doing or saying that you can test? How are competitors positioning themselves? Are there any common themes? Are they leveraging speed, cost, authority, scarcity, location or proximity? Anything else you can think of? And based on that, are there any gaps that you can test? And finally, check in on those keywords that you've researched too. Are there any gaps or opportunities or clear categories that emerge? Put all of your recommendations into section 3. Start with the slide where you summarize all of your observations, and then move into recommendations with the slide for each of the following. One for budget, one for structure, so how the campaigns are structured or how they break out, like services or keyword categories, for example. One for ads, one for landing pages, and then one for targeting. Make sure you document the what, the why, and the how for each slide. And then finally, we like to round up this section with 3 slides. The first one is for immediate action. So what parts of the strategy will we put in place now? The next one is future. So what parts of the strategy that we recommend will be put on ice for later? And then finally, urgent. So based on the strategy we want to roll out now, what do we need to get in place to enable it? And then, before presenting the strategy, we'll draft up some ad copy previews and also filter down the list of keywords to the ones that we want to target. We recommend having a list that's based on your budget and your CPCs, so one that allows for around 100 clicks per keyword per month.
All right, so we've covered some great stuff here, and we'll definitely be going deeper into each of these topics in future episodes. For now, let's wrap up with the takeaways. If search demand exists, start there. It's the highest intent traffic that you're going to get. Use customer and competitor data to build out smarter keyword and targeting lists. Only track interactions that matter, and make sure that your platforms are speaking the same language. Package your work into a clear and client-ready strategy doc, documenting your findings, your recommendations, and your next steps. If you found this useful, please leave us a review. Our goal is to remove the smoke and mirrors from the B2B advertising world, and every review helps towards this. And if you've got a burning question or a challenge that you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can head to webmarketeruk.com/topic and fill in the form. We really want to make every episode as useful as possible, and we read every single message. Thanks for listening, and catch you next time.